Point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to raise this in relation to the finance bill and particularly the report, and I'm actually literally seeking your guidance. That is the main issue. Mr. Speaker, the report of the bill, as you had indicated yesterday afternoon, would reach us later, and it did. However, Mr. Speaker, I want your guidance on the procedure that this report followed. Ordinarily, when we have a bill, the bill would come in the first reading, then it goes to public participation, as this one did. And then the committee would then get a report. That report would then come to you. Mr. Speaker, after it comes to you, you will then approve it for it to be tabled. It will then tabled. Then once again, it then comes a public document, and it can be discussed, and we discuss it, and it helps us to discuss the bill, which is actually what we are going to discuss. As Mr. Speaker, if then the bill goes through and goes to the Committee of the Whole House and the third reading and it's passed, it then will go to the President for assent. And that is the procedure. In this case, Mr. Speaker, when the committee had apparently finished, and they had probably signed it by both members from both sides of the divide, so to speak, Kenya Kwanza and Azimio. Then this report...
Order, Honorable Mikal.
Mr. Speaker, I'm seeking your guidance, so if you let me complete, then you will give me the guidance. Mr. Speaker, before that happened, this report was actually presented in a Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting, which definitely was chaired by the President, even if it is in capacity as the leader of that coalition, but definitely he was now taking part in the legislation. At that point, the members of the committee from the Azimio side were not in that. And therefore, the report then came back, and Mr. Speaker, as far as I know, you actually had to go through it in the late afternoon yesterday, and we're aware, and as you promised, by about 6:50, I think it was then tabled after you approved it. Mr. Speaker, and that by about 10:30, it was then loaded up and we looked at it. My concern, Mr. Speaker, we seem to have then breached the process, because we now had input from the executive, that is the President, before what we would have expected after the third reading is then when it would go. And if the President had views, he would then bring his views, his reservations and his suggestions. But here we read actually jump. Mr. Speaker, I'm raising this.
What is the issue?
The issue is that it actually went to the President, and he had an input before it came to us. And why I'm doing this, Mr. Speaker, there is precedence that when we had the BBI process, Mr. Speaker, the only reason when it went to court is that the President then did participate before the correct time, and therefore it ceased to be our Njiku issue. And Mr. Speaker, I looked at this and I saw some parallel and say, have we once again jumped the boat and then opened what we may pass, if we pass, to other people taking other actions because we didn't go through the correct procedure? Mr. Speaker, I put this in actually with very good faith, so that we look at the division so that the legislative does its work and completes, and then takes it to the executive, instead of bringing the executive to start legislation before their time comes. It is in very good faith that I raise this, Mr. Speaker.
It is in very good faith, but you have just made a general statement. What do you want the Speaker to do?
I want the Speaker to rule that the report we have that will actually guide us actually already has input from the executive, which it shouldn't have, because with the executive would then come later after we pass it, after the third reading. So, Mr. Speaker, what guidance do you give? I think this is a very important constitutional issue, Mr. Speaker, and your guidance will be extremely important.
Honorable, thank you, Honorable Nyikal, for raising that point. Honorable members, I don't want to open debate on this majority side. I have read the report, cover to cover. I have seen no reference to any meeting that you are talking about in that report. That's number one. Number two, caucusing among formations in parliament in a democracy is normal. Just as the majority side caucused, I'm also aware and I was informed, and I provided space for the minority side, as your speaker, for you to caucus last evening. And you did. Both caucusing are legitimate and legal under our standing orders and our constitution. Both caucusing and their outcomes cannot and will not be part of any report before the House. Indeed, if you have read the report like I have read, it has no reference to the majority side caucus or to the minority side caucus. Therefore, the bill before the House is proper. The report that was tabled upon my approval is available to every member. You may debate the bill and refer to the report. You may debate the bill without reference to the report. You may debate the bill without reference to any of the two. It's up to you. But the bill is before the House properly, and I now call the chair of the committee to move the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your guidance. Mr. Speaker, I rise before you today with a sense of gratitude and appreciation for the opportunity to speak to this greatly esteemed August House. The Debate Committee on Finance and National Planning has fulfilled its mandate